As always, a regular top 10 finish would be our primary aim, but also a regular place in European competition would be the secondary aim.
And when it comes to the women's team, the hot topic is the stadium. Is there any updates on those proposed plans?
We're really hoping to be able to be public with exactly what we're doing, where we're doing it, how we're doing it, if not in the latter part of the summer, then the early part of the autumn.
Paul, thank you for finding some time in your busy schedule to sit down. We'll start at the start of the summer. How does a Premier League CEO actually wind down and enjoy a break?
You try and get away as quickly as possible.
Well, I can tell from the time that was successful.
Yeah, it worked, but no, it's important because no sooner has the season ended that you've got the transfer window beginning. So it's really important if you need a break, and most of us do, whatever jobs we do, that you try and get that break in as quickly as possible because it very quickly all starts up again. On
a personal note, Paul, it must be nice to be back on the FA Council to represent the Premier League. Tell us what that entails.
Yeah, I mean it's always an honour to be elected by other clubs to serve them on a board like the FA Council or the Professional Game Board. It really is just about representing the interests of the Premier League, not Brighton Hove Albion specifically, although inevitably you bring your own experience into the job. But it's more about making sure that our interests across the wider game are properly represented. And when you've been doing this as long as I have now, hopefully you bring a little bit of perspective sometimes when there's tense moments, you bring a little bit of calm when there's sort of heated moments, and hopefully a little bit of knowledge and experience that helps everybody to make the right decisions. And it's an honour, and it's also a big responsibility that I take seriously.
And even though there's been no game time and no football actually played, for some aspects of the club it is a really busy time, isn't it?
Yeah, Mike Cave, David Weir, the technical staff are pretty busy on the recruitment side. Obviously we've had one or two players go out as well, which is when I tend to get more involved. And then of course you've got all of the technical staff that are preparing camps like this one in order to get our players fit and ready for the new season. So there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes that means that football clubs just don't close down in the summer in the way that people sometimes perceive we do.
The club has already been busy with the arrivals of Diego Coppola, Tommy Watson, Max de Kuiper and Oliver Scagli. Busy,
good young players coming in, experienced players as well, and adding to what is already a really good squad. So we're excited for the new season. Obviously we got off with a good start pre-season with a win against Stoke the other night. It's hard to know exactly how these games are going to turn out because Stoke start their season earlier. They're a little bit ahead of us in terms of preparation. They want to beat a Premier League side. Our players are just easing themselves back into sort of match play from the training they've done so far. So these games are always tricky to call, but I think it was a good workout and I think everyone seemed to enjoy it.
And on that, is it important for the fans not to read too much into the results? Because like you say, different stages of pre-season, trying to get ready at different rates, different managers do it different ways, don't they?
Absolutely, and players will come back at slightly different levels of fitness. Some will come back from an injury that they picked up at the end of the season, some will be very fresh. And you always sort of read things from fans saying, oh, pre-season games are a waste of time, and then you read others when we don't win the game saying it's ridiculous, we should have won that game. So they are what they are. They're designed to be there for the players, they're designed to be for the staff, they're designed for all of us to try and get that machine of a football club moving again. And obviously the most important part of that machine is on the pitch, and pre-season games are there primarily for the players.
And I obviously left the two new Greek arrivals off that list earlier, the two arrivals of Stefanos Simas and Babis, both 18 and 19 respectively. What should the fans expect from those two?
Well, first of all, they're young, and as we know with all young players, it takes a while to adjust to a new country, a new league, a new club, and so they've got to be given that time to adjust to their new surroundings, and also the sheer intensity and profile that comes with being a Premier League player is significant. So as always, we'll be working with them to try and make them feel as comfortable as possible, as quickly as possible, and obviously it's then down to Fabian and his staff to decide when they're ready to get onto the field. But they're exciting talents and we're delighted to have them.
And even though we understand those pressures from an English media perspective, there'll be a lot of pressure on those young men from their homeland as well, won't there?
Yeah, because I think when young players, move to the Premier League, the whole of the country in which they come from is interested to see how they do. It's going to be exciting for them, and there's also going to be a degree of pressure that comes with that. But that's part and parcel now of being in the Premier League and being part of a football club that's now going into its 9th season at this level. And the expectations that come with that grow every year.
And we'll be better positioned to deal with that after Caru's arrival and learning from that situation, won't we?
Oh, definitely. I think every year that goes by, as a club, our staff become more and more experienced in handling these sort of situations. And, the number of people we now have, as you and I were talking about earlier this week, behind the scenes that help support Fabian and his coaches and ultimately the players is incredible. We're probably now 3 times the number of staff in our club on a full-time basis than when I first joined 13 years ago. So the club has grown enormously in that time.
With players representing the club from all over the world, how do you best utilise that to grow the club's global brand?
Well, Premier League does a fantastic job for us because of the number of markets that the TV rights are sold into around the world. The club's profile gets elevated automatically. We're then fortunate that we've got global sponsors like American Express, Nike, Heineken, British Airways, who again help us to further grow that profile. And then the individual players themselves, whether it's back to their own countries or countries that are close by that follow players from their neighbouring country, all of those things add to social media following. When our games are shown live overseas, the number of people that tune into them, merchandise sales, overseas visitors to the stadium. I mean, it really is a huge machine, and the Premier League drives so much of that for us.
And even though obviously the games are played in England, a lot of the UK media, we don't see what happens abroad. There's so much more to the story, isn't there?
So much more, and huge amounts of obviously the live broadcast coverage which drives that, but there'll be also broadcasters coming from different parts of the world at different times in the season to do features on individual players that they can get taken back to those countries, features on the club, behind the scenes interviews with Tony, with myself, with David and others, and obviously with the coaching staff and players. All of those things go into a typical season, but of course, if you don't live in those countries, you'll never get to see that coverage. So it's a huge thing.
And as well as incomings, you mentioned earlier, you highlighted it, there's been a major outgoing, João Pedro to Chelsea.
Yes, a big opportunity for João to move in his mind to the next level, and obviously with the winning of the Club World Cup and scoring a goal in the final, you can certainly say that he's gone on to do just that. And obviously for João, the World Cup on the horizon is a really important factor in his decision making. He wants to be playing at the highest level he can in club football, Champions League, European football generally. And so although we're disappointed that he wanted to leave as a top player, the deal had to be right for us as well as the player, and we were able to negotiate very hard with our friends at Chelsea and get the best possible deal we could.
And that negotiation must have been quite easy because you've dealt with that club on a number of occasions now.
We speak to Chelsea regularly, most summers actually. But relationships between the two clubs are good, and there's a very small market at the top end of football for trading players, and it's inevitable that from time to time you're going to deal with the same club again. Perhaps not as regularly as we do with Chelsea, but it's a normal thing. We've sold a couple of players to Arsenal, we've sold a player to Tottenham. I'm sure in the future we'll sell a lot more of our players to some of the bigger clubs in Europe as well. That's the nature of our business model.
And currently, as we can see, we sat over in Spain. Previous years we've visited USA and Japan. Any reason that this is a private camp?
Yeah, I think sometimes it's good for the players and staff to be able to work without the scrutiny of cameras and social media and so on. And we took the opportunity this year, because we're not having a commercial tour such as the one we did to Japan and the US, to make the camp private. Also, when you have training camps that are open to the public or matches open to the public, it changes the security dimensions of the camp, which then adds to the cost. It changes the venue. It's not maybe quite as convenient sometimes for the players or staff. And as I said earlier, these pre-season camps are primarily about getting the players ready for the new season. and sometimes they would prefer to do that in private, and it's easier for us to facilitate. So this one, very private, but as we know from last year and the year before, we were very publicly available in Japan and US, and I'm sure in the future we'll do another tour like that as well.
Well, that was going to be my next question, Paul. Summer 26, will it be an open one? Will it be commercial? And can you let us know where it may be?
We've already had sort of one or two inquiries about where we might go next summer. And again, it's all about whether we can make the logistics work, the commercials work, most importantly the football preparations work with our sponsors to bring all that to fruition. If all of it comes together, then we will announce it as soon as we possibly can. Because I know that fans love to come to pre-season camps and friendlies when they can. So we'll certainly make sure that that's a priority to communicate as quickly as we can.
And off the back of the best WSL finish in the club's history, the girls are out in Spain as well soon, aren't they, to prepare for the new WSL season?
They are. I mean, they had their best finish last season, as we know, which is great. Again, it's really important that the whole club looks at the way we prepare for new seasons as a whole. In the past, I think the men's teams would have been given a much higher priority. Now, quite rightly, we're putting the two senior teams on a par as far as we possibly can. Likewise, our under-21s are here preparing for the new season as well. It's an important part now of the club's preparations for new seasons that we look at things equally across the two teams. And not only is that the right thing to do, but it's important that the women's team prepare for their season just as thoroughly as the men do for theirs.
And when it comes to the women's team, the hot topic is the stadium. Is there any updates on those proposed plans?
We're really hoping to be able to be public with exactly what we're doing, where we're doing it, how we're doing it. If not in the latter part of the summer, then the early part of the autumn. It'll be a great sort of relief for all of us to be able to talk publicly about what we're trying to do more openly and more explicitly, so people hopefully can get behind the scheme, get behind the idea. We've already had great support from Brighton Hove City Council. We're getting great support from our partners, sponsors to push ahead with this. And ultimately, and most importantly, we're getting great support from Tony Bloom, who will be the person funding it. So we're very grateful to Tony, and I know the women's team are very excited at the thought, even though it may be a couple of years away at least, to getting into a stadium in Brighton that they can call their own.
Well, I'm sure we all look forward to those updates. But talking of back home, there has been improvements to the Amex already. The terrace, which the fans got a little taste of towards the end of last season. There's a brand new club shop as well.
7 games we've played since the terrace opened. Most of them have been in weather like this, which is incredible. We couldn't have wished for that, or better weather for that. The new store is open, 2 tiers, huge wide range of merchandise that we've never been able to stock before. We've got safe standing going into the north end of the stadium, which is going to be, I think, very popular with quite a lot of fans. And then there's work going on all around to continue with the branding of the stadium that we've been working on for 2 years. It's a bit like painting the Forth Bridge. You start one part of it, and by the time you get round to the beginning, you've got to do the whole thing again. But that's the nature of how the Amex has evolved in all of the 14, 15 years we've been there, is that when we can improve the experience for fans on a match day and around match day, we will. And it takes money, it takes time, it takes a lot of commitment from Tony again. But these things are all designed to make sure that when people come to matches at the Amex, that they have the best possible day out. And technology is a big part of that, as we've seen with the terrace, with the screens and the interactivity with the fans. And again, if you look at the youngsters that go into the terrace, they're having as much fun as the older generations of fans. And that was the whole concept of building the terrace, so that different generation supporters, different ages, different sort of parts of the stadium can come together and enjoy the pre-match and post-match experiences.
And you mentioned in that answer about the safe standing, which is quite a major change, big difference, and like you say, it will really enhance that fan experience, won't it?
Yeah, we always said that we were open-minded to safe standing when the demand told us that people would embrace it. And initially there was a small group of fans that really wanted it, which we understood and respected, but it wasn't a large enough number to justify the expense. We're not increasing the capacity, we're not putting the prices up. Again, all of this is being funded from Tony, from the club. And therefore it was really important that the demand was at a sufficient level for it to be justified, because otherwise there's always other parts of the club where you can spend that money and improve something else for a larger group of people. But we hope this will satisfy the fans that wanted it. We hope that it will help generate the better atmosphere. And of course, as the stadium develops further, where we move the away fans away from that huge area behind the south goal into a more discreet area in the corner, again, we hope that will also contribute to the atmosphere being as good as it can be at the Amex.
And everything we've talked about is obviously leading into the 25-26 Premier League season. What are your hopes and aspirations for the season ahead?
As always, a regular top 10 finish would be our primary aim, but also a regular place in European competition would be the secondary aim. And we know how difficult that is. We know that there are a lot of other clubs that are bigger than us, bigger resources than us, bigger budgets than us, that are be aiming for the same thing. But we genuinely believe that we've got a good chance of achieving that on a regular basis, and we'll be pushing everyone internally to think like that, because if you think it and understand the vision, then I think you can deliver the vision. And from our point of view, if you can believe it, you can achieve it, and that's an important sort of mantra within the club. So yeah, we're looking forward to 25-26, and we're looking forward to pushing hard again in the Premier League.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much for your time, Paul.
Thank you.
Good to hear everything about the football club, and looking forward to the new season.
Thanks, Glenn.